Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another ant keeping video. Today, I will be talking about my favorite ants, Myrmecocystus mexicanus, who are simply beautiful ants. The last time I talked about them was in their 1-minute update, and a bunch has happened since then. Last time, they were growing steadily at about 30 workers. They were in a mini hearth XL. After that, they needed more space, mainly more outbuild space. So even though they had plenty of room left in the nest, I decided to connect a second mini hearth. This time a normal size to make feeding more bearable with a larger space. It worked, and they eventually took most of their brood and even the queen inside this new nest. I'm not sure why they practically took the whole colony into the smaller nest, but my guess was they liked the extra humidity in the new nest, since it was freshly watered. I was happy that they moved to the new nest since their glass was much cleaner and I could get a way better shots of the ants. I tested my theory by adding more water to the old nest, and sure enough, they moved some of the brood back, but not all. They probably decided to mostly stay in the new nest since it has a more preferable heating gradient. I used the heat map, so I was forced to put the original nest in a less desirable spot for heating. They settled in this way for a while, until a brand new nest arrived from Tar Heel Ants. It was a THA fortress, customized to my desire. I decided to get a terracotta nest with large chambers, fit to this ant species. The nest came with a nest mate, some nest plugs, and a feeding dish. I got the desert canyon decoration for the outworld, which looks really good. I love the whole aesthetic of the fortress. Plus, even though I got simple standard glass front, you could barely tell the glass was even existent, making filming these beauties a lot easier. I waited a couple of weeks for this colony to grow a bit more, but I wanted to use this nest as soon as possible. So at about 55 workers, I decided to move the ants in. Now, the move of the genus Myrmecocystus is a lot harder than other ants. If you had a different species in this situation, you may simply dump them out into the large outworld. But the big thing that's different about these ants is their unique repletes. If you take any ant off a sidewalk and decided, hey, I'll drop it off of a 20-story building, as you do, when it hit the ground, it would be able to survive, right? Well, that's not the case. I won't get too much into the science of it, but basically, the ant is too light, and the resistance of the air around them prevents them from falling fast enough to harm them. This means that most ants can survive any fall. Add to the crazy list of ant abilities, right? But a replete has so much liquid in her gaster that is simply like a balloon on the edge of popping. Plus, they are much heavier than your average worker, so upon impact, they will sometimes pop. This also can happen with a queen, who has a gaster full of eggs. That is the reason why I can't be carefree about this, and I have to move the repletes manually. You can't just do this with any tweezers either, as that might put too much pressure on them and make them burst. So, specifically for this move, I bought a special type of tweezers called featherweight forceps. Tweezers designed for picking up insects without harming them. I also needed a large container lined with Fluon, so when I open the glass of the nest, so the ants won't run everywhere, something to place the nest on to elevate them so I can easily reach them, and my ant vacuum that I collect ants with. To be safe, I took one ant nest at a time. First, I placed the smaller nest onto the elevated surface and took the glass off. Surprisingly, the ants didn't care that much. Of course, a few ran out of the nest, but thankfully they didn't all go berserk. I then got to work by taking out the repletes and placing them inside the new nest. I took my time, so I didn't harm them. And plus, the featherweight forceps I have are cheap Amazon ones, which made the job a bit harder. As I was doing this, I also moved the queen and vacuumed out the workers. I put the queen and all the workers into the outworld, and put the repletes directly into the nest, so they could easily hang like they do. I accidentally popped one replete, but it probably will happen when moving them as they are very delicate. This is what the outworld looked like after the move. The day after, I was happy to see the colony fully moved in. Today, they are packed on the bottom chamber under the water tower. I counted 70 workers, and this colony has grown a ton since the last update. The queen is pumping out eggs as usual, and she just laid a batch of about 20 eggs. They also have a few larvae, but no more brood at the moment, as the previous generation recently hatched, growing their population by maybe 10 to 15 workers. Every time I feed these beauties, they always gain some small repletes. I find my colony likes to spread out the replete cast. Although they have a few large repletes, there are a lot of smaller repletes that are still very mobile. Right after feeding, you can see the workers practically see-through gasters become red as well, before feeding the queen and repletes through trophallaxis. I am really excited for the future of this colony. A lot more is to come. I'm thinking their next step after growing larger will be adding a mini hearth to the setup, and then another fortress when they reach 500 workers. The beauty of Targeland setups is you can simply connect them since they are magnetic. Anyways, that should wrap up today's video. See you guys later, and peace out.